Monthly promo credits applied over 36 months with a new line on unlimited welcome. In times of congestion, unlimited 5G and 4G LTE may be temporarily slower than
San Diego.
Hey, it's Chris Ello. We talk Padres, but I like to steer the discussion in the direction of the Aztecs as well. Listen for yourself. Gwynn and Chris, 2 to 6 p.m. weekdays on 97.3 The Fan.
And Odyssey Sports Station. Listen up, Friar Faithful. 97.3 The Fan's Padres Roundtable is on the air.
Unbelievable!
It's time to discuss everything going on with the Padres. The 97.3 The Fan crew is here for the most in-depth discussion on the Friars in our weekly Padres Roundtable, delivered by San Diego Roundtable Pizza. And now, here's your host, Ben Higgins.
And welcome back. Week 2 of the 97.3 The Fan Padres Roundtable, brought to you by San Diego Roundtable Pizza. It is pizza royalty, and it's good to see everybody in our panel back in our sound space here at our Odyssey Studios, but a new addition this week. Welcome back from the road trip to Chicago and Sacramento to Tony Gwynn Jr. Hi, Tony.
Hi, Ben. How are you guys?
Good. It's good to see you. We need a little
Good to be seen.
difference of opinions here on the round table. So we'll get to some of your stories from the road trip.
Because after all that positivity, Tony's always very negative.
Yeah, totally. That's the voice of Chris Ello, and it's funny that you should bring that up because I wanted to start the discussion today with a wrap-up of what was a very middle of the road 3-3 road trip, but I think it's a good personality test for what kind of Padres fan you are. Do you view the 3-3 road trip as a glass half full? The Padres battled, won 3 games in tough conditions, really showed something, or are you more of a glass half empty that we started to see some cracks in the armor, some pitching deficiencies, obviously some concerning injuries, and do you feel worse after that 6-game road trip of 3-3? So since Chris, you brought up the positivity versus negativity, I'll let you start today.
I thought it was a good road trip,
Yep.
and that's coming from me. So let's try to keep it in perspective. But you lose the first 2, and you still wind up 3-3 with all the injuries at the very end. I thought the other thing that a couple of things. They hit 298 with runners in scoring position on the homestand. They hit 161 on the road trip with runners in scoring position. So they didn't get any clutch hits. They didn't do any of the things offensively that they were doing in the first homestand, but their bullpen is so good. It's masking any deficiencies they might have right now. So I feel pretty good about it. As long as those four guys at the back end stay healthy, gonna be all right.
Yeah, Scraby, could have kind of been 2-4 or 1-5 with a couple of things not going the Padres' way. So how do you view 3-3 after those last 6 games?
I think it's a pretty good road trip, and I'm buying more and more into what Jesse and Tony are saying about how cold it was in Chicago, because you could kind of see a difference in how they played from Chicago to Sacramento, and I have to think that some of that is the weather. The only thing that we could say that didn't go right on this road trip was Jackson Merrill going on the IL and Fernando and Jake Cronenworth getting hurt, but sounds like they're possibly back tomorrow. So overall, they did what they needed to do. You just need to split your road trips and you're good to go.
Woods, you're kind of dooming hard after the 10-4 loss. You were really excited today. Overall, 3-3 road trip. Where do you stand?
I loved it. I thought it was great. We talk about it all the time. Split those games, get home. Winning at Petco Park is something they need to do. And the take of you need to beat middling teams. You need to win those series against teams like the Oakland A's. While they're young and fun, they do a lot of things that are great. You're a better team than them. Even a decimated Padres lineup was able to scratch one out yesterday. They show a lot of heart. They have shown a lot of heart already throughout this season, winning a lot of one-run ball games. So absolutely successful road trip.
Well, I'll go to Braden next because let Tony ease his way into the roundtable this season. Braden, what did you think of the trip?
I thought it was a good trip. I mean, to be honest, if you could go 500, regardless of who you're playing on the road, it's going to be a solid trip. I think bouncing back from the first 2 days in Chicago on Sunday, and the deficit that they put themselves in really showed, the gritty turn that Mike Schilt mentioned last year that's now played into this year. I think you saw that again with, a Tuesday night that did not go their way and started off the day with a Jackson Merrill on the IL. You lose Fernando and Jake Cronenworth in the middle of the game. You lose 10-4, and then you have to bounce back very quickly and play the next day, which is very difficult to do. And they go out there and they win a gritty game against an A's team that is yourself there. I was saying how much I'm so tired of the whole don't call us Sacramento, don't call us Oakland. I say the city names, it's okay. But I just think that last year when they were 500, they were playing 500 ball through the first 100 games. I didn't think they were that gritty, and they would use the term gritty. But right now, they're actually doing exactly what Mike Schilt said this team was. They're a gritty team, and good teams find ways to win when guys go down. I think you got to be, if you're a Padres fan, you got to be satisfied with the 3-3 road trip.
Tony, are you wondering who are all these positive people that I've come back to on this panel that just view everything so optimistically involved with the San Diego Padres?
No, I just think they finally have seen the light. I think they had a good road trip. I think, quite frankly, they could have took 2 or 3 if that ball gets by the center fielder on that crazy dive attempt, or the third baseman doesn't pick up that in-between hop. I mean, a bunch of things could have gone their way that didn't go their way in that Chicago series. And then you saw, as Braden alluded to, their character. I mean, that's kind of been a developing thing from the beginning of last year till now, that kind of grit. There's just a mindset that they have that they're going to find a way to get it done. And yesterday was a good example of that. They had a boatload of hits. They couldn't get anybody in, but bullpen did their job, and they're off to a good start. It's been fun to watch.
Off to the best start, the 10-3 best record in baseball. Now they're 5-0 in one-run games. There will be some one-run losses at some point this season, so maybe that pace is not sustainable. But remember, that pace is over 120 wins and an all-time baseball record. No one saw that from this team. They're just getting a little head start here with a good opening to the season. Now, Matt, you did mention Jackson Merrill's injury. That's a real concern, at least for a week or two. And, hopefully Fernando Tatis Jr. and Jake Cronenworth do return. But the question, I think, now for the Padres, we saw some of the reserves come up and contribute in a big way yesterday. But overall, do you guys think that the Padres have the depth if they do have to face a chunk of the season, whether it be now or later, where they're missing a couple of the regulars, a Machado and a Merrill, a Tatis and a Cronenworth for a month and a half, because that does happen. Do they have the position player depth, Braden, to withstand that and at least tread water while their guys could be gone?
Well, I think yesterday was a showing of whether or not they had it, at least against a below than average team in the A's. But they're not like, it's not like the A's team they played is one of the teams that they've had in the last 2 years in Oakland. I mean, they have some solid players. I mean, like everybody likes to say in baseball, they got paid professionals over there too. But I think that's a big reason why you go with a lot of veterans that have been there and done that before, right? Like the Jason Haywards of the world and some of these guys that they brought in. Now, a lot of those guys statistically haven't been performing to a high level, but yesterday when you needed them to come together and play a hard-nosed game, they went out there and did it. Guys like Jose Iglesias, who might not be off to the best hitting start that maybe the Padres were expecting, but can really do it with his glove. I mean, I think that all the players that got pressed into action found different ways to help contribute to the team to winning. And then on top of that, I still think you've got a couple of guys down in AAA that could probably help the ball club out at some point in time with Connor Joe and Tirso Ornelas. And, Eggy Rosario started in center last night for the Chihuahuas. And then you saw, Oscar Gonzalez came up and did a couple of good things over those couple of games. So, if they have to have those guys play the entire season, you're already in a world of hurt anyway. But to fill in for a couple of games here or there, maybe a max of a week, I think the Padres are okay.
And Woods, what this really is kind of an evaluation of A.J. Preller's offseason, because a lot of the new guys are guys that he brought in specifically on minor league one-year type deals to be these depth pieces. Did he get it right, in your opinion, so far?
Yeah, so far so good. I've said it before. If I could magic wand Jason Hayward into hitting 20 home runs and hitting 280, I would do it in a heartbeat, just because I love the guy. Watched him yesterday. We didn't talk about it on the show. Watching him busting it down the line, sliding into first, beating one out, like setting the tone for the other guys on the team. That's a guy that's been there 16 years. He's got a ring at maybe 2, and knows what that team needed yesterday, and it was to set the tone. And I really wish a great season for him. But I do think, and Braden mentioned it, Connor Joe's down there, always gives you a good AB, can get on base. Tirso, it kind of remains to be seen at the big league level, certainly. But obviously that's a piece that they are interested in and want to, probably bring up at some point. But so far, so good. Yeah, I mean, you can't argue with a 10-3 record.
Tony, when you look at the depth, how patient should they be with a guy like Tirso Ornelas, who's off to a slow start at the plate? Hayward as well, knowing, as Braden and Woods mentioned, there are other guys at AAA who had good springs and are off to good starts. How quickly do you make adjustments on the roster, before, because you can't undo some of those moves once you make them?
Yeah, I don't know that there's a time limit or a segment of time that you give. I think you know it when it's time. I think we'll truly know if the depth is what it is as we get going into the season. I don't think people thought AJ had the depth last year until all of a sudden it's popped up and it had to perform, and it did. And I think that's ideally what you're looking for as a GM. You're not looking for guys necessarily that can come in and fill that exact role and run it through 162. You're looking for guys that in pockets of time, can they come in and just at the very least keep us where we're at. If we get bonus offense from them or bonus play from them, even better. And so I think right now, as everybody's really said, they're in a good spot. They got the right kind of depth. They got the guys producing enough right now, and if they need to dip into their stash, I think they won't hesitate to do so.
I think that mindset too that they've had, that Tony was talking about, and that grit, I think that goes a long way with guys filling in and understanding this is what we got. And there's something about that kind of clubhouse culture that, regardless of what the talent is on your roster, they might be able to rise to a different level. And
Chris, it's funny. Woods and I were talking about it this morning. Nowadays, managers will find different off days for their stars. One guy will rest on a Monday, one guy will rest on a Wednesday. Back, when I was growing up and you watched, there was always just a Sunday lineup. They'd have the regulars would be in Monday through Saturday. And on Sunday, you'd see a lot of the B squad bombers, the reserves would get their day. And yesterday felt a lot like one of those B squad bombers days.
It was a getaway day. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Enough about all positivity.
Okay.
Let's at
Here we
least
go.
let's at least open it up here just a little bit. You can't be happy with what you're seeing from Yuli Gurriel yet. I don't think you can be happy with Hayward yet, the way he's swinging the bat. I'm not thrilled with Elias Diaz back there right now. I think Maldonado plays such great defense. It doesn't matter. And he also had a 3-hit game. So, I'm not sold on their depth right now. But again, if any team loses a Machado or Tatis for a month and a half, it's going to hurt. And the Padres would be included. But I think they have enough depth. I don't know that they have the right depth in there yet. And I think that that's still to be determined over the next month or two. And I think that they'll get the right mixture, whether it's guys who come up, guys go down, whatever, or if they have to acquire another guy or two. But I'm not completely sold on the depth after 13 games.
You're not wrong. Obviously, you lose Tatis or any top player, it hurts. But Matt, I mean, we forget so quickly. Last season, 93 wins. They lost Tatis for months. They lost Bogaerts for months during the course of that season, and they still managed to win the second most games in franchise history thanks to depth.
Yeah, I think I'm one of those people that forgets quite often about what they did last year and what they did it with. But
Yes,
I also think there's a couple things here. Mike Schilt talked about competition throughout all of spring training. And when these guys get to the big league team, who doesn't want to be on this team right now? Who doesn't want to be on one of the best, most exciting teams in baseball? So the competition to get there is fierce, and the competition to stay there is also fierce. And I really think that what Mike Schilt has brought to this team has completely changed the outlook. And I can't remember which player said it, but I was reading in Kevin Acey's newsletter about how they bought into this in the second half of last year. And it was a mindset throughout the entire offseason. They all thought about it all offseason, about what their approach was and what they need to do. So I think that is what Mike Schilt is doing. And I think that the depth is going to – what Chris said is right, though. There's going to be a better mix at some point for this team.
Perfect segue here.
And Xander Bogaerts, too. Like, Xander Bogaerts, we need to give him a little bit of credit right now.
It's playing well. He's absolutely playing well. It's a perfect segue to my next question here about Schilt ball on our 97.3 The Fan Padres Roundtable, brought to you by Roundtable Pizza, San Diego Roundtable Pizza. It really is pizza royalty. So we're seeing a lot of the same things this year as we did last year. The Padres, last check, led MLB in batting average as a team. They're top 4 in stolen bases. They're being aggressive, but they're in the bottom half in power numbers, home runs. They're not hitting a lot of those. In modern baseball, and let me start with Tony this time, is that going to be an effective strategy, or do they need more slug and more power from their stars? I assume we're going to see some of that, but they've definitely got an average first approach, a very Tony Gwynn-like approach, as it were.
And your question is, can they
be sustainably successful without being, one of the top 10 home run hitting teams in baseball?
I mean, I think that's already been proven at this point. If that means, if you're asking, does that mean they're going to get to a World Series? I don't think you really know. I think that also goes for the teams that are in the top 5 in power. They don't know if that's going to be sustainable all the way through, but it gives them a shot. And I think what we learned last year, and when you compare it to the year before, based on the type of at-bats you saw, the type of approaches you saw, what we learned is that that approach fits this roster better. We saw what it looked like when we were trying to hit the 3-run homer. We were trying to get the big inning, and a lot of times it left a lot of runners on base, and you end up losing a lot of close games. And the flip side of that last year was you started winning all of those close games. Not all of them, but most of them. And I think that approach plays. It's not just a base hit approach. That's the thing. It may be a base hit approach here in April and March when it's cool, but as it starts to warm up, you'll start to see the slug pop up a little bit more, as we saw pretty much in the second half of last season. So I'm all in on this approach. It's a lot more. I think it's a lot more fun for people to watch as spectators. And it's just a lot better game, selfishly, a lot better game to call.
No doubt.
When 1 through 9 are giving you those type of at-bats.
Yeah, we've made the point a few times, Woods, on our show that we feel bad for fan bases on other teams that don't get this brand of entertaining baseball on a nightly basis. But Chris, you're never afraid to think a little bit outside the box and differently. This is a different way. Modern, sabermetric baseball tells, hey, walk a lot and wait for the 3-run home run. Don't risk yourself on the base paths. Batting average is too susceptible to BABIP and line drives that are outs. Home runs and walks are the only true ways for offense. Padres are doing it differently. That's a risk when you do things differently than other teams.
Maybe so. But if this team was relying on the 3-run home run, they'd be in big trouble because they haven't hit one yet. I think they've only hit 2 home runs with somebody on base. Everything else has been a solo shot. But I also think that their approach has won at least 2 games this year. One of them was yesterday. Xander Bogaerts, an aggressive tag to go from second to third. He would have been out had the throw been absolutely perfect, but it wasn't, and he made it, and that set him up to score the winning run eventually on the sacrifice fly. Earlier in the season, Elias Diaz laid down a 2-strike bunt that moved 2 runners over and won a ball game. Nobody sacrifices anymore. Nobody takes chances on the bases anymore, except this team's doing it, and I like it.
Did a seagull just land on
Yes,
our window?
yeah,
2 seagulls
behind me.
Gulliver's hanging out over
I'm
there.
hearing the sounds of the ocean. Like
We're like landing and kind of fighting over there.
Did our office move?
I thought I said something really exciting, but evidently not.
What's going
There
on?
was a seagull fight.
I saw everybody's reaction. I'm like, boy, this is really working.
You can see it on the camera. We're
I
hanging
felt
out
like it was in a Finding Nemo movie
That
for a
was
second.
hilarious.
I'm going,
Oh yeah, they're on there.
What's going on here? We're on the 6th floor
Sometimes
of a
they hang
building
out
off
there.
the 15 freeway. It sounds like I'm at the ocean.
It's the good luck. We had the Rally Roach last year. We've got the Padres Seagulls this year. The Seagulls.
Goals want to
Ah, yeah, it's hard to. I've lost my train of thought at this point. Let's see. Oh yeah, Schilt ball. Braden, your thoughts on Schilt ball here?
I like it. I like, it's kind of like, it's a little bit of like the old school, kind of Southern California college baseball, approach of playing a little small ball, but being aggressive. With my experience of working with USD baseball, they got a term of, if we're going to fail aggressively. And that seems to be, kind of the case of the San Diego Padres. As Chris mentioned, Xander yesterday, if that throws a perfect throw, he's nailed, but you want to see the aggression. And that's what we talked about last week. It's whether or not as a fan, when you talk about some of these moves, you're either for the aggression or you're not. You're not for the aggression when it works, and then against the aggression when it doesn't work, right? So there's going to be times where they're aggressive and they'll run into outs and they'll run out of runs and people will get frustrated. But that's the game you play, playing that style of baseball. I like the way that they're doing the pass the baton kind of approach. I like the simplicity of just trying to get hits. And the thing is, and Tony knows, and he mentioned it. When you're hitting line drives and you're focused on hitting line drives, eventually you're going to get a hold of one and it's going to go over the fence and you're going to get that slug. But what this does is it gives your offense an ability to win in multiple ways instead of just living and dying with the home run. There's going to be games the Padres win solely on home runs. Yep. There's going to be games that they win because they get a bunt down. There's going to be games that they win because they just hit doubles of the gap. When you have a team that's that versatile, you're going to win a lot of baseball games instead of being one-dimensional on, we just got to hit the ball out of the yard and have the analytical high slug that you see in current baseball. I love this style of play because, again, you get to win. You find different ways to win, and you need that when you want to compete for a World Series.
And Woods, I think continuity plays a part in that as well. Last year, it was new to these guys, being aggressive and playing the way Mike Schilt wanted. They looked much more comfortable at it at the start of this season.
Well, and every player on this roster, when you ask them to do or when they try to go outside of that, they're really at their worst. When Manny is at his most locked in, it's right center, and it is like it's like a work of art. When Manny's going right center gap, when Luis Ariz is just doing what Luis Ariz does and not trying to do too much, great. Jackson Merrill, same thing. Fernando Tatis Jr., you're in the leadoff spot, man. Get on base, don't strike out. He's doing all that, and he's hitting some home runs too. If these guys stick to their strengths and they can do it for 162, I shudder to think what the record's going to look like at the end of the year. Really, I mean, once you try to do too much, there's the oldest saying in baseball that I heard was "do less." Do less. Don't try to do too much.
Saw it on Tuesday too.
See the ball, hit the ball hard. Good things will happen every time. And the team doesn't strike out a ton. It's such a better brand of baseball, man. It really is. It's night and day.
I also think that the pendulum, I don't know that we're going to be able to keep saying that all these teams are viewing it offense from that same lens. You're already starting to see the pendulum kind of swing back where multiple teams are having this approach that we sometimes call, just trying to get hits, but it's really just back to hitting the ball on a line drive and having a variety in their lineup where it's not, a bunch of Manny Machados, although I'm sure most teams would love to have a bunch of Manny Machados, just in terms of that style, right? There's a variety, and you're starting to see that start to happen across baseball. It's not just here in San Diego.
Well, we talked to, Saris a lot on our show, and he's such a brilliant baseball mind, and he talks about how you have to have 9 guys in the lineup with 9 different swings, or the pitcher knows exactly how to get those 9. If you're all Kyle Schwarber, I'm going to know how to get you guys out, right?
Absolutely.
And I love Kyle Schwarber. What I wouldn't do to have a guy that with 47 home run power in this lineup, but it's not the way that this team is built. And I'm sure we could find a spot for a Kyle Schwarber in that lineup somewhere, but the way that they're doing it is just different, and it's enjoyable. And it's, people say old school. I don't know why we ever got away from it, to be honest with you. I mean, it's easier to win with a bunch of 3-run homers, but man, this is sure.
Those are hard to come by.
They're hard to come by. They're really, really hard to do.
Well, to pick up what Woods was saying too, I think you saw it Tuesday when no Merrill, Tatis goes out, Cronenworth goes out. All of a sudden, in Manny's, Manny starts swinging at that slider low and away. And it looks like he's trying to just do everything himself. And he went away from what he had success at the beginning of the year. And then yesterday wasn't doing it anymore, right? And that's human nature, right? You go up there, you look at the scoreboard, you feel like you could try to get the runs back, or you got to try to do a little bit more. And then it puts you, behind the 8 ball a little bit.
Every time Jeffrey Springs found that changeup on that at bat to Manny, and Manny was 3 times, and it's
and he spit on that all year until that.
To be fair, it wasn't just Manny; it was
everybody.
And so Springs just used that to his advantage, and was just going to keep throwing pitches off the plate.
And they were hacking because they were down, and they're trying to scratch runs out, and it's just when they stay with who they are and what Mike Schultz has been preaching. This team is so dirty, even missing those guys yesterday.
And the continuity that he said, too, when the guy behind you can get the job
Absolutely.
done. You're like, all right, I'll sit on it. I'll walk. I'll pass the baton to the next guy. I know he's going to get the job done. And you saw that again yesterday.
It's been awesome.
All right, let's change topics here on the 97.3 The Fan Padres Roundtable, brought to you by San Diego Roundtable Pizza. It really is pizza royalty, and I specifically wanted to start with Matt Scraby on this question because I don't know if you guys talked about it on your show. It was a nugget this week from the Kevin AC newsletter about Luis Ariz and the cold shoulder he's getting from umpires after comments. He was quoted in the offseason saying umpires did a really bad job last year. They heard that, and now when he goes up and says his usual cheerful hello, at least some, if not all the umpires are not even responding to Luis Ariz. And I could specifically see Matt kind of having a hot take on that. So I wanted to start with you and just see where we go on the Scraby train here.
Because that's how Matt would treat. That's how he would treat Luis Ariz.
We're venturing into Scraby stand.
I actually heard Tony and Jesse talking about this on the way down, and I was surprised at Tony's reaction to it a little bit, because Luis Ariz says that he doesn't think that they're calling balls and strikes differently. So he's not saying that, but are umpires some of the softest people in the entire universe? You can't have one guy say that you were bad last year and just move on. How many times do we get messages about how we stink at our jobs? We move on. Umpires hold on to this stuff.
Yeah, you move right on, Scraby. You never
who is this guy?
Right? You never obsess about one negative tweet that you get.
And to ignore a guy because, and I think there was a translation problem as well, or Tony, you can tell me.
I want to know what Tony has to say.
I think that the English is Luis's second language, and it came out how it came out. But I don't know. Knowing Luis, it's hard to believe that that's how
he didn't want to call them bad.
Right. There was a more tactful way of getting to that. I just don't know that he was capable of getting to that. Right. Secondly, listen, if we read that an umpire had said that we were trash, we would feel as a player, okay, because you're kind of in that I know umpires and players, but they're all kind of in that same fraternity in terms of Major League Baseball. So I can imagine that rubbed some guys the wrong way. The trip part is that it was one of the umpires that tipped Luis off. Like, hey, man, I just want you to know
We saw this.
this is going around. And so
Imagine being mad at that guy.
Right.
If it's Bryce Harper or somebody like that has been thrown out a bunch. If it's Bryce Harper, you're like, oh, shocker, he's got a problem. You got to look at the man.
I agree.
The player.
I agree. And, listen, I think there have always been certain umpires that, are a little bit more sensitive to those type of things than others. But I also think it also speaks to Luis's character that he got out in front of it.
Said, I'm sorry.
And said, hey, listen, that's not what I meant. I apologize. As you said, Luis has a good rapport with all those guys. You see him every game come in. He taps the umpire on the shin guard, says what's up. I can imagine he was probably feeling that, which is why he felt like he had to apologize.
Is it true that he has tried to speak to these umpires and they do not respond to him? Because if that's true, that's even
I'm not
crazier.
down there. I don't know. That's what Luis said. He feels like he's getting a cold shoulder. Listen, there are times where I can remember saying something to the umpire, and he might not have heard me. Like the crowd's cheering as they're giving your name. But if he's saying it happened, it probably happened more than once. So
stand for Luis.
I imagine that there's those couple that were probably feeling salty about it. I imagine.
That's elementary playground stuff.
That's right.
The silent treatment. Let's see what the resident whistleblowing official
Why are you
on the panel.
Let's
there
see
we
what
go.
the resident official has to say about this.
for a resident referee, Chris Ello?
You just called umpires and officials basically soft.
Umpires.
I am going to come over there and smack you.
Umpires.
Have you? Even umpires. I mean, no, they never get a home game. They get booed for every single thing they do. We don't hear everything that's even said. You can't imagine it.
I agree.
We have managers and players both screaming obscenities from the dugout on every ball and strike, Aaron Boone. So don't tell me that umpires are soft. You don't get that job if you're soft.
But isn't
I'm
that
not
part of
happy
the
with
job?
your comment.
Isn't that when you sign up for the job, you sign up for all of that comes with it?
Well, if a guy says I suck, then I'm going to get up there and suck. Sorry. And
See, that's the wrong attitude.
To be fair, that's not what these umpires are doing.
Right. They're doing good. Yeah.
They're calling the game
Right.
as it's called. I just want to make
the
sure.
other thing is no matter who the umpires are, it really doesn't matter because it took 58 bats to finally strike that guy out, and you had to hit him with a pitch to do it.
That's right.
So it's not really having a big effect on him.
Yeah, he's fine.
Yeah.
He's fine. It's the goading umpires that always bother me. It's the one that are spoiling for a fight. Absolutely.
Right.
They
Well,
rip
what was
the
it,
mask
Laz
off.
Diaz the other night?
Yeah.
Terrible job.
I mean, they absolutely can have bad days too. I am sympathetic to that. I don't argue with umpires nearly as much as I used to. So I appreciate the gig, but yeah, man, do your job. And again, know the man. Luis Arias is like the best, most gregarious guy in Major League Baseball, and you can't cold shoulder that guy.
Luis is a lot different from a lot of players. He is actually engaging.
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily see why they felt salty about that.
him.
Yeah.
And I think if there's a lesson here, again, translation and
Right.
Luis, what he was trying to say is don't speak in generalities.
Generalities.
I'm sure there were some umpires who had some bad seasons, probably some umpires who had really good seasons.
Well, by
as
the way,
last year.
hitters like him and like your dad, if the umpire calls one that they don't agree with, the umpire inherently knows they're wrong. They know that inherently. They're like, if Tony Gwynn says that's off, that's probably off. If Luis Arias says that's off, that's probably off. And they know they're looking at themselves going, oh God. Now, if it's Oscar Gonzalez, he's like, shut up, kid. Get back to the dugout. But these guys are like, I blew it. I absolutely blew that call. And I bet you 9 out of 10 times, if they went back and looked, they'd be like, yep, that was off.
Yeah.
I mean, because those guys, they don't miss. They don't miss.
That's probably why it hurt too.
Oh, yeah.
That he did it that way. You
That's
know what I'm saying? 'Cause
exactly right.
They already respect him, but then it was like, man, you just gonna throw us under the bus, all of us under the bus.
back up over us.
All right, gentlemen, I'm going to ask for a volunteer to go first on this one. ESPN yesterday did their early MLB hot takes, including a couple of Padres ones. I think Buster Olney predicted a top 3 MVP finish for Fernando Tatis Jr., less than 20 strikeouts for Luis Arias. Finally took one yesterday. Had to get hit by the pitch to strike out.
Dirty slide.
The only time he didn't hit, he got hit. But does anybody have any now after 2 weeks? Padres hot takes.
I personally
rest of
don't.
the
I'll go
season.
first. I don't.
Yeah.
I don't think Buster's is a hot take. Really. I mean, Toddy is. He just seems. And this was before we even got to see the season. He just seems primed to really give a good run at that MVP. I think he is. I think more than anything else, I think mentally he is in a really good place. I mean, I can't remember a time since he's been with the organization that he's been like this, like engaging, this like kind of just calm, and like he just seems
Confident.
he's always been confident,
Yeah.
but now there's just like
That
this
cool-
calmness
that
that
cool,
about
calm-
him that
Yeah.
you sense when you're around him. And hopefully the shoulder thing is not a big issue at all, because I think he's headed that direction right
I'll
now.
throw one out because this is very unlikely to happen. You don't see it very often in Major League Baseball anymore, considering how careful they are with starters. Michael King to win 20 baseball games this year for the San Diego Padres. Wow. He's added even more movement, which I didn't think was possible. He's 2-0 now in his 3 starts, so he's off to a good start. I was going to look up who the last Padre 20-game winner was, but I realized I have Chris Ello next to me. You know the answer
It's
to
a
that
human
one?
almanac.
Was it Bruce Hurst?
No, I think I honestly
Jones?
think
I'm not
Randy
sure.
Jones and Gaylord Perry are the only two
It's
that have
been
ever
a
won
really
20.
long time.
I think they're the only two that have ever done
You
it.
don't see many 20-game winners in baseball anymore because guys don't go deep into games, but you need offense to win games as well as a pitcher. Michael King's pitching for a contract this year. I feel like he's going to have a good season, and maybe we'll see something rare.
Bullpen
and
looks good
special.
too.
Bullpen's going to
If the
hold a lot of
bullpen-
those leads.
If the bullpen gives it up, you don't get a
It's
decision.
a good way to get to 20 wins, which you don't see much anymore. Woods?
Randy Jones and Gaylord Perry.
Yep, there you go.
Oh, my goodness.
But ESPN, according to AI, ESPN predicts that Zach King may be the 4th
Oh, Zach,
in
huh?
2025. I don't even
Zach
the
King.
4th. Who's the other one? Oh, Randy Jones did it twice. Yeah, Zach King, who we don't even have yet, is good. That's it right there. Zach King will win. That's my hottest take.
Zach King.
My hottest take is Zach King will not win 20 this year. He will not.
How could you say that?
Going against AI.
Are we combining Zach Gallen, Zach Eflin, and Michael King
Yep.
into one?
Zach King, who we don't know.
Is that a
and
CK or a CH?
GACK. We
Okay.
don't know.
So it's not a Zach.
We don't know who he is yet.
And
he
AI
will
is
win
running
20.
everything, huh?
He's gonna. Yeah, AI's running everything.
All right.
You guys
Good
want AI to take
prediction.
the place of this, huh?
Do you want a wild prediction?
Yeah.
A wild prediction that I
Hot
don't
take.
think is actually going to come true, but it could come true. MVP, Cy Young, and reliever of the year for the National League on the Padres this year.
That's a hot take.
That is a hot take.
I mean,
dude.
Fernando can win the MVP. We got Zach King, who can win the Cy
Zach King can do it all.
Young. And Robert
gonna win
Suarez
relief.
is 6 for 6 right now.
No hits
Yes.
allowed.
No
for
hits.
Robert
No hits.
Suarez either, which is incredible. Chris, any?
I'm not going to
hot Padres
offer
takes?
one
No.
because the only one I offered during the offseason was Luis Campusano was going to make the All-Star team.
That's
Not looking too good at
He
the
might
moment.
always
so.
be his
Coaching
hot
He
hot
could
take.
make the AAA All-Star
He
team.
could.
He's off. to
Oh,
a good
yes,
start,
sure.
so-
That counts.
Did you specify
You didn't
which
specify.
All-Star?
Go back to the
team
tape.
he's gonna
Go
make?
back to the
True.
tape.
I will
Didn't
give that to
specify.
Chris. I'll give it to him.
Go back to
Didn't
the tape.
specify.
Braden, any hot?
I
takes
think
here?
it might not be that hot, maybe a lukewarm take, but I think Xander Bogaerts is going to have a top 5 WAR season in his career. So when you look at his career overall seasons, I think he'll, and just to show that he's poised for a really good year. His first year with the Padres, he had a top 5 WAR season in his career. He had a 4.4 WAR. And people seem to forget that. I love the start that he's off to. He's a very likable guy. I love the way he handles the media. I like the way he's a pro's pro. I think having him in the organization is phenomenal. I think he gets too much of a bad rap from Padres fans. And in fact, I'm sick and tired of hearing it every single day about how much that guy sucks when he
Take it
doesn't.
up with that guy on the end over there.
I don't complain about
He
Xander
thinks that
Bogaerts.
Xander Bogaerts
There's a lot
makes
of
too
buzz
much
running
money.
over
And
here.
ought to get it.
That's not
every
his
time
fault.
he's
That's-
out.
That's not his fault. That's not his fault. So I have planted my flag a couple of weeks ago. I'm going to be the biggest Xander Bogaerts supporter because
No, Mike
You
Schultz
need-
the biggest.
yeah, well,
one,
that's
stand,
fine.
Stand in line. You can't get through
Hey, boy.
a Schultz news conference without a comment
But-
about Xander Bogaerts.
but he's
nowadays.
he's off to a good, he's hitting the ball harder than he's had in a long time. If you look at his hard hit percentage, it's the hardest this season than any other season in his career. And he's already the hardest hit ball that he hit so far this year is in the top 3% of Major League Baseball. He hit that ball against Atlanta at 112 miles an hour. I think that is showing that he's healthy. His wrist is ready to go, and I think you're gonna have a pretty good season out of Xander Bogaerts.
Can I address Chris real quick? Because I do not want Xander Bogaerts slander put on my name. I love Xander Bogaerts. Maybe, I do get on athletes' cases for making a lot of money and not performing. But who's to say that
Padres offered him the contract?
Well, that's very true, and he took the contract. I think Xander Bogaerts is great for this team. I even did a whole segment on the Scraby show last year when he was struggling about why he's going to turn it around. So check that tape, Chris.
I'm combining.
Shakes his head.
Speechless. Drop the mic.
There's more show to get to.
I'm combining the roundtable, the draft, and the 7th inning stretch into one today. And I'll get to the question in a second. But first, I wanted to ask Tony specifically, how is Sutter Health Park, really? I mean, how is playing baseball, Major League Baseball in a minor league park? Your impressions?
I thought they did a good job.
Did you have a mushroom sandwich?
I did not
have a mushroom
I hate
sandwich.
mushrooms.
I do too. I hate mushrooms too.
So I didn't have a mushroom salad. Listen, I think nobody had their mindset on it. I think everybody understood what they were walking into. Sutter Health Field has always been one of the higher end AAA parks. I mean, at least when I was playing, they had set attendance records for so many consecutive years. So I thought it was good. I thought it was fine.
Did you go in the media shed?
I did go in the media shed. No, I did not go in the media
you
shed.
saw the media.
Was there a part of it for these guys that might have even been a little fun? Like it's because it's different.
I think
fun.
I think for the road team, you could probably run into that, right?
Yeah.
You're only there for 2 days, 2 nights, and usually you're leaving on the 3rd day.
Yep.
So like probably around the time it's starting to get a little tight, things are starting to get a little uncomfortable, you're leaving. However, for the home team, I wonder how long that's going to be before they start to, because they all of them to a man had like the best mindset about it.
Yeah.
Going into the year. But I imagine when you get into July and that 100-degree weather is coming down on your head,
Start looking forward to road trips.
Exactly. But I thought all in all, it was
Year
pretty
two, year
good.
3
It
of
was
that
pretty
as
good.
well.
All right, so that leads me into our roundtable draft / 7th inning stretch question. Remember the rules.
Wait, where
Can't-
is this? I don't.
All right, so everyone gets to pick. I ask a question, and you can't pick the same answer that's already been
we
taken.
did
So you have to
question.
come up
I
with
got
your own, even if you wanted to steal it. So today's question is, outside of Petco Park, what's your favorite baseball venue? And why? And it can be a major league park, minor league, college, high school, whatever. What's your favorite baseball venue? Tony, you seem to have an answer. I'll let you take the first draft pick today.
It was really cold, but Wrigley Field is by far.
You love Wrigley.
It is the best of the best to me. Outside of this place here, if you like the history of the game, if you just like the old school setting, I don't know. There's something about that place when you walk in it. You just feel like it's.
Do you feel that way when you're hauling your gear up the ramp?
That's more Dave Marcus.
Dave's job. Dave probably
I got a
hates
backpack
Wrigley.
on, so I'm pretty light going up.
What
But
about when it's 40 degrees out?
even that's the thing is, even though I was as cold as I've ever been in Chicago this last time, I still
Love it.
enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Like watching a game from, especially where I get to watch the game from now. Watching the game from that view, there really isn't a whole lot like it.
Woods, you lived in Chicago. You got the second pick. Did he
I'm sorry,
steal
my
your
story.
pick?
No,
or you got something else?
honestly, I used to love going to Wrigley Field. But I was drunk a lot, when I went there.
As you should be.
Man, I got to tell you, I was really impressed with Oracle last year. That was one of the best experiences. We took the whole family up for my wife's birthday. It was spectacular, spectacular.
Another one.
Great area around the ballpark, great food at the ballpark. The people were reasonably pretty cool and friendly, and Padres dominated that night. It was just a perfect night. So that stands out for me. I haven't been to a ton of the new ones. Old Yankee Stadium was insane to go to.
Yeah,
absolutely insane.
No fair taking a whole bunch of answers.
Sorry.
Give
Well,
I didn't know you traded up for the draft.
no old stadiums. But yeah, I'd say Oracle was. I really look forward to going back.
All right, Braden, what's your draft pick here?
You said any baseball
venue,
venue,
yeah.
but I'm gonna stick with the major leagues. I really like watching games at Coors Field. I think Coors Field's a pretty cool ballpark. From the fan experience, the rooftop that they have, and it's very Petco Park like but like a Colorado vibe. Obviously, you got the beautiful view of the Rocky Mountains, and I think the way that they did their park is awesome. The rooftop, as mentioned, they have fire pits up there, and it's pretty cool. They got the mile high seats like in the top deck. So I really enjoyed going to Coors Field. I thought it was a cool experience.
I'm going to go next because I don't think I'm going to steal anyone's answer. I've been to all three, and they're all terrific. But I'm going way off the board, and I don't think any of you have ever been there, but I've been there 4 times. I think Williamsport, Pennsylvania,
I've never
the Little
been.
League World Series, Lamity Stadium there, maybe the best venue I've ever witnessed baseball. It's
That's cool.
It's such an amazing atmosphere at the end of summer with the kids out there and everything that goes on. It's just so special, and it's such you're transported back in time almost. You drive hours from like Philadelphia to get to Williamsport, which is it's the middle of the state, and there's a river and a bunch of trees, and all of a sudden this stadium, everyone played Little League here, and like you always dreamed of getting there, and you never came close. And then I got to go as a reporter 4 times and be there, and it was like, wow, this was my kid dream, every kid's dream, and I'm getting to watch these kids live out the dream in this stadium.
That's
So
legit.
I'll pick that one as mine. Scraby?
Last year's Oakland Coliseum. I'm kidding, everybody. You should see the
Nobody
look
laughed.
We didn't find that funny
on
at all.
Nobody laughed.
faces. That fell so flat. I thought I was going to get a few chuckles. But
not even the Seagulls gave
can
me
we
a laugh.
move on, please? Because now I'm crawling out of my
The
skin.
seagull was out there very stern after that
he
comment.
wasn't
Yeah,
popping
even the
off.
What you
Seagulls
guys
didn't
don't
laugh.
know is this is a normal situation that happens on our show.
Yeah,
Welcome to our lives, everybody.
I have to
The
say,
look
I was
on
at
your
Jackie Robinson Stadium over the
Hey,
weekend.
it's not your turn.
I thought it was a pretty good park. Well, you said Oakland Coliseum.
no, I
thought
did
we were
not.
Moving on.
I'm going to go with Fenway. I've been to Fenway 3 times, and the first time I went was magical, and it was also when I was a drinker. So I sat in left field near Pesky's pole. We did the Sweet Caroline.
That'd be
field.
right field because left field is the
Oh, sorry,
monster.
right field. Yeah, the monster. You're right. Right field, Pesky. I was looking at it from my
If
view
you're on
of
the
my
other
seat.
side, though, looking
I guess you
it's
could
the other way
see.
around, of
I'm
course.
looking from my
Yeah.
seat. I can still remember it. But we did the whole Sweet Caroline thing, and it's just it's like one of those. It's like Wrigley. When you walk in, you just feel history. Babe Ruth played there. Like guys like that played there.
After hearing that, I'm not really convinced you actually were at Fenway Park.
I'll show you pictures, but I don't remember that first. So.
All right, and I believe, Chris, you get the toughest pick the
Thanks.
last one today.
I think all of mine were taken. Yankees, Fenway, Wrigley would be my top 3. I like Coors Field, but you left me with no other choice
Don't do it.
than to pick what?
I don't do it.
I don't. Are you gonna?
Oh no, I'm not.
Oh,
Gonna
okay.
go there. Even though I spent much of my childhood going to games there, I'm not going to go there.
Good.
I think the best view in Major League Baseball is at PNC Park in Pittsburgh.
It ranks high every
It's
time.
unbelievable.
I've never been.
I have been there once, and I didn't even watch the game. I sat there looking at the vista of the bridges and everything behind it. So that was kind of what was left to me.
What's the best press box view, Tony?
Not that one.
That's what
That's up there with their nationals.
I was like, yeah,
Or
actually
you
like
in
it.
Well, if
the
it's
roof.
views you like and any venue applies. I don't know if anyone's ever been to Point Loma.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
Jerry's
yeah.
ballpark.
Yeah.
I heard that one's
Played a
beautiful.
game.
That
I
is
played a
pretty-
game there. It was
Pretty
unbelievable.
spectacular.
I
right
couldn't
there
vote
on
for
the
that. I
ocean.
gave up way too many home runs into that ocean.
All right, we got a couple of minutes left. The Colorado Rockies are coming to town.
Oh,
boy.
man.
So-
Oh, God.
So let's dig into this because Woods and I did some research. Then I went back and did even more research. Since 2010, the Colorado Rockies, Chris, you would know, you followed them pretty closely, been a pretty bad team. 2 playoff appearances, I think, since then in 2017 and 2018. Outside of that, mostly third through last place finishes in the NL West. Yet they have a 10 games above 500 record against the Padres over that stretch. Better against the Padres than any other team in the NL West. Why? Why do the Padres play consistently so poorly against the Rockies?
I don't think they play so poorly against the Rockies. I think the Rockies, for some reason, play above what they normally do. Brenton Doyle will be Mickey Mantle this weekend. Ezekiel Tovar will be Barry Larkin. Michael Tolia will find his power stroke. Marquez will pitch, like Bob Gibson. They seem to play above their level. From, watching the Rockies a lot, my wife's from Denver, so we do watch, and they just normally play terrible baseball. They play the Padres. They look like they know what they're doing. So I don't know that it's the Padres. And the only answer I have to it that makes any sense to me is maybe just a little of the Bud Black factor. Maybe he gets his guys up to play, his former team. But otherwise I have no explanation.
Braden, like this time, literally, it will be the team with the best record in baseball against the team with the worst record in baseball when the Rockies come to town tomorrow. Yet Padres fans will all be chewing on their fingernails for this series because they know what the Rockies have done in the past.
Yeah, I've seen Kyle Freeland shut us down multiple times and then get absolutely shelled by everybody else around Major League Baseball. So I don't really know. I was going along with what Chris had to say. I mean, maybe it's the Bud Black factor. I mean, they got 2 local kids coming into town too. I don't know if that's gonna be a huge factor with Mickey Moniak and Sean Bouchard, but I don't know why the Padres can't beat them. I mean, the only thing you would say would play down to the level of competition. But as Chris said, I mean, it's not like the Padres play that poorly against Colorado. I mean, the Rockies seem to turn it on. And you know what? When you are a team that is the, hunted instead of the hunter, you're going to get a lot of teams' best shot, and you're going to get the Rockies' best shot probably more than a lot of teams outside of San Diego and LA for the Colorado Rockies.
Tony, are we looking for an explanation that doesn't exist? I thought maybe 2023, the team that never really took anything that seriously. They did okay against the Rockies, yet last year's team that played like, every game was the World Series, they did terribly against the Rockies.
I don't know. Going back to 2010, that's a long time ago. And
Tony was playing back.
Tony
was back.
Padres had some pretty bad teams in that time frame too. So I mean, I don't know that going back that far helps, but I don't think there is an answer. I think last year we played the Rockies relatively early when we lost some of those games before we turned into the team we turned into.
They were hot going into a bunch of those series too. They had started playing well before.
Yeah, but we were still doing the 3 games above 500, 2 games below 500 when a lot of those games took place. When we got them at the end of the year, I think Padres took care of business in that last series. But I just think it's one of those things. It seems like all good teams have that one team that for whatever reason they just don't play well against, or the other team plays better than who they are.
Good experience. Like, you have anything that comes to mind when you're a player about maybe a team when you're a part of an organization? It's like, I don't know why we can't beat these guys.
It's been so long since I played. I can't remember, honestly.
The Dodgers back in, what was it, late 80s, early 90s, they had the problem with the Padres.
The Padres used to beat them up.
I remember the Padres owned the Giants
when the Giants were in their run. We used to wear them out all the time. Right, yeah. But it's just kind of how it goes. I don't know that there's a real explanation. Hopefully it'll be different starting tomorrow.
But Woods, like this year, maybe it's the year they can least afford it when the rest of the NL West is so tough, and you expect the Dodgers and Diamondbacks and now Giants to beat up on the Rockies like they always do. Padres can't afford to give up 5 or 6 games in the standings against the Rockies compared to the other teams.
No doubt. The pressure's squarely on the backs of the San Diego Padres at home this weekend. It's the series that I hate the most every single year since I moved here in 2010. I feel like I'm always end up at one of those games.
There's the explanation. Woods came in 2010. We got it.
It's true. I'll be going Saturday night, and I fully expect the worst to happen just because that's what I've seen. And it's you have to beat up on those teams. All those really great teams that would win the division every year, they beat the crap out of the lower level teams. You just have to do it. You have to do it. These games are really, really important. Every mistake is magnified. They seem to take advantage of every mistake. They're young, they're a young, hungry team. They got something to prove. They want to beat Manny Machado. They want to beat Xander Bogaerts. They want to beat Tatis Jr. They do. So the target's on your back. You gotta find a way to win the series, man.
Just to piggyback a little, sorry, but the Rockies do go 0-12 against the Dodgers and Giants every year. Right. I mean, so it's true. They beat the Padres. They really don't beat the other teams at all.
At all.
Yeah. So I think that's a myth. I really do. I mean, I know that those 2 particular teams you're talking about, yes, but good teams lose to bad teams all the time, and they don't always have great success. I will say this. Padres are playing the Rockies. Cubs are playing the Dodgers. Yankees are playing the Giants. So, we could talk about Rockies and Padres. Padres lose 2 or 3. Those same things can happen to the other teams. Yeah. It's a wash. It's early in the season.
Sure.
Dodgers almost got swept by the Nationals. Not
That's
that the
right.
Nationals are terrible, but it
That's right.
happens. Matt, you don't seem afraid of supernatural explanations. Is there a curse?
I actually
clearly listens to the show.
I do. You know me very, very well. I was gonna say, because everybody said everything that I was thinking, but the curse of Charlie Blackmon's beard is gone. So maybe that's
Yeah, we have
Hey,
Dylan.
true.
We have Dylan
He's been
Cease's-
there since 2010.
We have Dylan
That's
Cease's
right.
beard now, though.
yeah, which Chris and I have determined that Dylan Cease needs to shave his beard.
Yeah,
and go
is that
back
what
to
it
the
is?
Gotta
mustache.
go back to the
Yes.
Doc Holliday
It
mustache.
hasn't worked out for
He
him.
needs
so
to go
far
back
this
to
year,
being Doc
but
Holliday.
We've seen Charlie Blackmon's beard.
Yeah, he's still with the
Great
organization,
days.
though. He's still with the organization. So
But he
I
can't hit a
imagine
home
Did he
run.
not come to San
That's what I'm
Diego?
saying. I imagine he'll be in
If
the
he walks
suite.
out of the dugout, we're in trouble.
Yeah, he's brutal.
Just last couple of minutes. Let's forget about the Dodgers for a second, since we're talking about the NL West, though. Giants off to a really hot start. I think we all thought the Diamondbacks were kind of the wild card team to watch. Is anybody more worried about the Giants now after the start that they've gotten off on? Wood, you're not.
Yeah, of course.
Like more worried about them in
Than-
general,
than
or
we
more
were
worried
at the
about
beginning
them
of the
than the
season.
Diamondbacks.
Or more worried about them than the Diamondbacks.
I'm worried
yeah.
about everybody in the NL
Yeah.
West, and especially the Colorado Rockies.
I'm
Like I
not-
said it. There's not a team in the West.
I'm
There's not a team in the West
No,
that I'm not
you're
afraid
not
of.
worried about the Rockies acing anybody out for a wild card.
No.
spot.
Correct.
You're worried
well,
about
but
the game specifically against their team.
you know, there's a way the Rockies could ace the Padres out of
Yeah.
a wild card spot by beating them a bunch of times, and we don't get a wild card spot because
He is
of it.
clearly concerned.
Very. But
I-
the Giants are terrifying, man, and you know they're also finding ways to get it done without a ton of star power.
Speaking of pendulum swinging, right? That was a team that was platooning and
Yeah.
doing all of the they're with Buster on. I almost called him Buster only. Buster Posey running the ship there. They're playing a
Back to
very,
basics.
very similar fashion of baseball that we're watching here in San Diego. I thought that team from the moment that they signed Adonis and they got
Chapman locked up. Yeah.
I thought this team was going to be the real wild card in the division, just from the standpoint nobody was expecting. I think the Diamondbacks aren't sneaking up on anybody
Right.
at this point. I think they should be regarded as a top tier team. The Giants have a lot of the ingredients that could cause a lot of trouble at the end of the year.
I'm
I
still worried
predict
about
they'll
the
go
Diamondbacks.
away quickly. They have two starting pitchers that I see, Robbie Ray and Logan Webb. I think they wasted a ton of money on Verlander. He looks like he can't get through the first inning so far. I don't think they have the depth to keep up with the rest of the division.
Right.
I agree with Chris. I don't think it's sustainable. What they currently have. I think they'll probably be a nuisance for a long period of time. In terms of division, you always got to be worried about everybody in your division. I'm still worried more about the Diamondbacks if I had to pick over the Giants.
Gentlemen, it's been a fast hour. I want to thank everybody for joining us on the 97.3 The Fan Padres Roundtable, brought to you by San Diego Roundtable Pizza. It really is pizza royalty. That pizza is calling to us from right over there. Tony, it was good to have you for the first time this season. And it's
to be here.
home this week for the Rockies and the Cubs coming to town. So some games at Petco Park coming up. We'll talk to you next Thursday with another edition of the Roundtable. For Matt Scraby, Stephen Woods, Tony Gwynn Jr., Braden Surprenant, Chris Ello, and the Seagulls out on the perch that enjoyed the show as well, probably hoping for some pizza. I'm Ben Higgins. Live Braden Surprenant shows coming up next here on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Have a great rest of your day, everybody.